Dave Hiscock will not be taking that bike back. It's owned by Rod Coleman, the New Zealander. Look at the power of that Yamaha. As Ron squeezes 140 horsepower down onto the track, but also in a very light bike, very quickly gets the front wheel up. By comparison, Mick Cole, riding a similar bike, said he's quite tentative about opening the taps out of the corner because he said it comes on very hard. And in third place, Bolden down and the S's there. Well, very, very rare that we see Ron Bolden do that. Let's have a look at it.
We just started to see him go out of the corner of the frame.
He's winded himself.
How quick there, Neville.
There, here we go. Just watch now as the front end starts to wash out.
There he's down. Come in too tight on the apex there, Dennis?
Yes, it looks to me like he leaned the bike over a little bit too far. It's hard to tell, but he might have lost the front end first, I think.
Left knee there he's hanging on to, as you can see. Well, a wretched race for accidents. 5 riders down.
Very rare, as you said, to see Ronald do that. He's usually the most consistent rider in Australia.
So that John Pace now on bike number 2 comes up to 3rd place. Andrew Johnson's 4th. Dennis Ireland is 5th. Mick Cole 6th. Gary Coleman 7th. Steve Parrish 8th. John Wood 9th.
Andrew Johnson, of course, in a lot of pain with his swollen kneecaps. He took a bit of advice from Dennis Ireland, Dennis Neal rather, before the race, which was to take it easy, don't go for the lead, and just ride around and pick up points, because it was certain that a few other people were going to crash out or suffer mechanical maladies. And Dennis, I think your advice is certainly holding true at the moment.
Yes, it's often the way in these series, as everyone's in such a fever pitch. They're all really wanting to go for it and lead it. Often a rider who just sits back and gets his 3rds and 4ths and 5ths and does the whole series with no problems will win it.
Well, Dave Hiscock has only 12 points at the moment. He's sitting on 15 here. Takes him to 27. Still doesn't get him past Stuart Bond on 30. Bolden lying in 2nd of the series. Johnson's lying 3rd. And in the place that he's holding at the moment, he's not going to look too bad.
So this is what we didn't expect in the Swan Insurance Series at Oran Park. That is that 4-stroke should be leading the race at the halfway point.
The other 4-stroke in there is John Pace on number 2. He's lying in 3rd place, sandwiched in behind the 2 Hiscock brothers and Andrew Johnson on the Honda number 7. The 2 holes you can see on the fairing behind the seat there, or the bit of bodywork, is actually the intake for the carburetors. Runs all along the side of the seat, inside the rider's calf there, giving him still cool air that's come over the back of the rider into the carburetors. He doesn't want the disturbed air and the hot air that flows back normally over the engine to be sucked into the motor. That's 3rd place John Pace. Non-finish in both heats at Sandown, but really was very quick when the bike ran. There's Ron Bolden, so that's good news.
And is there going to be feverish activity in the pits after this round to get the bikes ready for the 2nd heat of the Swan Insurance Series later this afternoon?
The ambulance leaving the scene of that 3-bike accident at the start. All the tank, the seat, and all of the major parts of that bike, really the frame too, is formed out of aluminium. It's a monocoque. Johnson still holding 4th, Mick Cole still 5th on bike 8.
See how smoothly Dave's riding. He's really sorted himself out and that bike. Shows you what a season in Europe does, riding every weekend, the competition he's up against. Really smooths you out. In comparison with his brother on the locally Australian-built bike, he's doing a good job to wrestle it, but it's sort of all over the road.
14 seconds, the gap 1st to 3rd place.
IG Neville in second place there is really squeezing that bike hard, running out onto the run-off strip areas on the outside of corners. The frame working and squeezing and twisting all over the place. Bike sliding around. Eight laps completed, 4 to go. Over the Dunlop Bridge goes Andrew Johnson, and bike number 7. He's in 4th place, just leading Mick Cole on the Yamaha 750, bike number 8. Through the corner on a similar bike to Ron Bolden's. The corner where Bolden fell is Mick Cole on 8. The bike in front, if you care to believe it, is $60,000 worth of Formula One endurance racer.
Bike 8 should have an advantage down the straight here. It'll be interesting to see. The Grand Prix bike can actually pass the factory Formula One bike in front.
Mick Cole, only his 3rd ride on the 750 Yamaha, rode it at Winton, and they booted extremely well there. This is the bike owned by sidecar rider Jeff Taylor, formerly ridden by Graham Muir, among others. Look at the race leader, Dave Hiscock.
Actually was the bike, Will, that won the last Australian Unlimited Grand Prix Championship. So quite a successful machine. Graham's actually here. Graham Muir's here today on crutches. Got out of hospital a couple of days ago to help Mick Cole prepare the bike and give him some tuning points and setting up points on it. Very much a low budget team, but with the help of Jeff Taylor, they've done a tremendous job.
Yes, well, after Winton, he ran at Sandown, but broke a crank in the first heat, had to ride his Superbike in the second, so that Cole lies in 10th place in the series with only 3 points.
23 seconds is the gap now between Hiscock in the lead and Gary Coleman in 7th position.
Neville Hiscock got no points at Sandown. Dave got 12. So point score by the end of today, with the 2 heats to be held today, is very much dependent on the condition of the bikes and the riders who came down there. We see Cole now nearly through on Andrew Johnson, not quite. And Neville Hiscock.
He's doing a fantastic job there, Will, to stay with that factory type built Formula One bike in front. Much more experienced rider on the front bike on this type of machine, and just shows you the heart that Neville's got. He's really puts everything into it.
Here's the news from the timekeepers, and that is that David Hiscock,
half to the finish.
David Hiscock has established a new outright lap record here at Oran Park of 1:16.1.
1/10 quicker than the old record.
3, I think. I think it was a 16.4.
16.2, Gary Coleman.
Okay, that was unlimited on a 750 Yamaha, and the 500 record 16.4 for Phyllis. And they are now on their final lap. And Neville really is doing a great job. He qualified at 0.2 of a second faster yesterday, but Dave wasn't having any such nonsense today. Pulled the pin on that and took the lap record as well. Gary Coleman is one who'll be disappointed with this result, because he qualified 3rd fastest, kept out of that opening melee, although he's probably held up by it and put off by it, but has been running back in the field. Gary Coleman still only in 7th place. He said on the Yamaha it's very hard, pins from road-going bikes, so faster than a normal road bike. The biggest, most powerful bikes from Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, all here, waiting to go. Neville Hiscock's in the middle of the grid. Pole position on the left of the field is Hiscock, as 238's wheeled away Chris Nankerville. And it's a good start for Phyllis. Glenn Taylor lagging a bit behind him, but it's Phyllis into the lead. No, it's not. It's Chris Oldfield into the lead. Neville Hiscock, you can see there, is in 3rd place.
Phyllis is trapped right back there. That's him on bike 32 on the wide side of the track. So he's about 5th or 6th position in the pack.
have not seen Oldfield being beaten in a start down on that Superbike. It absolutely puts all the power to the ground. He always seems to lead him for the first 2 or 3 laps.
Hiscock overtakes Pretty into second position.
Phyllis is 4th, Glenn Taylor's 6th. Here's Glenn Taylor, 6th, 7th behind him. Neil Robinson.
And if you're wondering why Rob Phillis is riding in a different helmet, it's because his was so badly damaged in the Swan Insurance crash that he's had to borrow another one in the pits.
So Oldfield, Neville Hiscock, Greg Pretty, Rob Phillis, Glenn Taylor up to 5th now. 1 there was Rodney Brown, the Queenslander. And Phillis slicing his way up to 3rd. There he is in 3rd. Glenn Taylor's still 5th. So it's Pretty that's gone back to 4th.
Neville's actually hit the lead now. He's got past Oldfield.
And there's Pretty in 4th place. Phillis, there's a man who took an incredibly heavy fall in the accident that involved 2 other riders. And he's in 2nd place, and he's doing the only thing he knows how, and that is to chase the race leader if there happens to be someone in front of him. Rob Phillis.
And he's catching him.
Game.
Any normal person having a fall like that, you think that'd be enough to unsettle them, but Robbie had a similar big crash at Sandown last weekend. Got up, strapped himself up, got on the bike for the next race, and actually broke the lap record by 2 seconds. So he's just one of those sort of guys that doesn't seem to get him down.
Through the corner where he crashed, where the tail of the 500 Suzuki came round on him. Look at this. Neville Hiscock took a half a second off Phyllis's lap record set at a previous meeting. Phyllis has had a horrifying high-speed accident, not just slid off the bike, but been thrown up in the air and tumbled and fallen and run into the concrete fence. And here he is arguing for the lead.
Neville's Action Suzuki's got quite a definite power advantage over Robbie's bike. I'd say about 5 or 6 bike lengths that time down the straight.
Well, he is running 1100 cc's. Robbie Phillis is running only 1000. Back to next year's maximum class limit. 10 laps this final round of the Can-Am Superbike Series.
This is the part of the circuit where Robbie really shines. He's really fast through this twisty section on the Grand Prix circuit.
Those bikes bucking more than the course of the rodeo at the Easter Show. Particularly off the bridge. Through that corner, of course, is where Rob took a heavy fall in front of the field a couple of years ago.
See, he's right on his back wheel, and we'll just notice the difference down the straight. It's about 2 bike lengths behind him there. See it pulling away. About 4 bike lengths quicker down the straight, which is quite an advantage.
He gets out, he gives himself a really good entry to that corner. Can grab nothing on that quite accelerative bit down to here. Then gets out wide again for a beautiful entry to the corner.
Notice
delicious.
Neville uses more of a blocking line. They're only using half the circuit, so that if Robbie is going to make a move, he's going to go around the outside, which is the long way around it. Neville's riding more defensively here than he would if he was had a clear lead.
Now watch the bikes kick through here.
There's a bump on the exit of that corner that if you get out just a little bit too wide, it'll throw you for the entrance to the old S's. They have to be very careful to tuck in just a little bit tight off the bridge.
That's what Ron Bolden said actually when he crashed in his last race. You think he went over that bump and just lost the front end. He's have to alter his line a bit down the next race.
There is nothing in brakes between these 2 bikes, is there?
Now they run identical brakes, identical tyres. As we said earlier, Neville's bike is a monoshock rear end, full floating Suzuki rear end, whereas Robbie's bike runs conventional twin shock absorbers.
Dennis Phillips has got a real problem on his hands now.
I think Robbie'd be pretty happy at this stage to sit here with Neville. He'd know now after following for a couple of laps where he might have a slight advantage, and seeing that Neville has a power advantage, it'd be a bit pointless for him to pass at this stage. I think he'll probably leave it till the last lap and have a shot at it then. These two riders are absolutely the fastest two Superbike riders in the country at the moment. As you can see, they're just leaving the rest of the field way behind.
Half race distance at the end of this lap, 5 completed.
Chris Oldfield in third position.
Fourth is Glenn Taylor, fifth Greg Pretty, sixth is Rodney Brown. They are on numbers 01 Oldfield, 97 Glenn Taylor, 64 Greg Pretty, and 1 Rodney Brown.
You're watching there, Oldfield and Glenn Taylor together in third and fourth position.
And as the leaders cross the start-finish line, third and fourth place Oldfield, Glenn Taylor.
And Pretty coming right up on Taylor, passing him now into fourth position. So a race between the two Team Honda riders.
Glenn rides the bike prepared by Bennett Honda here in Sydney, whereas Greg Pretty rides for Honda Australia in Melbourne. And they tend to do quite a bit more development work on the engine, and you can see that Pretty's bike's got a definite speed advantage. They're basically both the same motorcycle.
At Sandown, Greg Pretty was running past Mick Cole and Rob Phillips up the back straight, just soaring past them, 20 kilometres an hour faster. But the thing wasn't handling as well through the corners. He was having a back off for the S's at the top of the hill at Sandown earlier.
Oh, big challenge on Oldfield over the top, and you're not going to do it there, Greg Pretty.
Not the place to try and do that.
Greg Pretty, of course, a former winner of the Swan Series in 1979, as was Jeff Sale that Bob Vincent was talking to earlier. He won the inaugural series in 78. It was won then by Crosby in 80 and by Wayne Gardner last year, only a 2-race series last year.
Greg much prefers to ride a Grand Prix bike, but in Australia at the moment he's been offered this Honda ride, which is basically on Superbikes and production bikes, and that's what he's been doing, but his love really is a Grand Prix bike.
Well, he's won at Bathurst, both the RI 500 race and the Unlimited GP. He's been an Australian Unlimited champion. He's also tried campaigning overseas, but it was a bit of an unhappy time for Greg.
Well, he won a very important race at, I think, Sugo, one of the Japanese circuits once, with all the top riders in the world there, and he beat the best of them, so he can do it. Greg's done it all in Australia, and he's really confident, but things just haven't quite gone too right for him this year. And his heart really, I don't think, is quite in it, because he thinks these things are a bit of a handful, whereas the Grand Prix bike does everything right.
There's the leaders, Neville Hiscock in the lead, still followed by Rob Phillips.
And they're on their 7th lap.
I think Robbie's got his measure on.
10-lapper.
I'm almost certain you'll see him try something in the last lap. When he sees that blue flag, he'll do a desperate.
Regrettably, it won't be enough for the series, however, because he needs to put another place between himself and Neville Hiscock to take out the series after having dominated it, frankly, in the opening rounds earlier this year.
He'd be a point shy. A pity, because he would have wrapped up then 2 of the major Superbike series, having won the Victorian NGK series, which hopes to go national next year, with his teammate Mick Cole, Neville Hiscock 3rd in that series.
Hiscock braked a lot earlier into the slow corner then, but balked Phillips and left him with no way through.
Robbie, I think, to get to the checkered flag first in this, he's going to have to pass Neville at the start of the Grand Prix circuit on the last lap, because Neville's bike's definitely faster, and unless he can put a substantial gap between himself and Neville's bike, Neville will out-accelerate it over the line and get the win.
There's the braking manoeuvre, and he's done it.
Now Neville, I'm sure...
Too wide, Neville back to the lead.
The old story, fast in, slow out. You're going a bit too hard and you just can't get the power down early enough coming out.
So that's a bit of an advance warning for Neville too, although the more serious manoeuvre won't come at that corner. But it's just reminded him, if he needed any reminding, that Phyllis is not happy with second place. Is Phyllis going to either squeeze the guy out or get the space that he wants, but he wasn't going to back off from there.
There's Michael Downey on a Honda. Oh, and he's gone, Neville!
Neville.
And you would get up and run away from that, wouldn't you?
That was caused by that lap rider. He made Neville have to change his mind at the last minute and alter his line, and that's just the problem.
And you know, of course, that now Rob Phyllis can win this series.
So he's had to pull it a bit tighter to go underneath that guy, and it's
just kicked him, thrown him everywhere.
No room for error on those things.
That was Michael Munro on a Ducati 750 who was the left rider.
And Phyllis has just missed it. And that bike venting a lot of energy there. Thank goodness Neville got clear of it. Landed absolutely face down, as you saw.
It's got to the situation here in Australia now where I think some of these slower riders, like they're lapping them in 7 laps around a Grand Prix circuit, and that's not on. They're going to have to more, vet a rider's capabilities, or he's going to have to be able to lap within a certain time of the leader's lap times to be allowed to go in the race, I think.
Well, in fact, there was something like 14 seconds the gap between the speed potential of these people and the slower riders in this race, Dennis, and that's just too much.
That's too much. That's, these things are lethal, and if you have people doing that, he's very lucky he didn't hurt himself there.
So now Robbie Phyllis looking behind him just to check on Neville Hiscock's condition. I'm sure will be quite relieved to see his adversary, but friend, up.
It's amazing the things these guys can put themselves, their bodies through, and they just get up and walk away from it. And sort of, he'll be out in the next race if he can get another motorbike. That doesn't seem to worry them. Very tough breed.
Dennis, as we were saying earlier, when you put it into the orchard at Bathurst last year at 150 miles an hour, at least you had the good sense to come out with a couple of oranges in your hand.
Yes.
The blue flag's out, and the checkered flag's ready, and there it goes for Robbie Phyllis, winner of the Can-Am Superbike Series for 1982, giving him the big double, the NGK Series in Victoria and the Can-Am Superbike Series in New South Wales.
That's the way they finished. Hinton
Warren
leads the field on 43.
Coming right down on the outside of him.
5-lap race on the Grand Prix circuit. So it's 13 kilometres, and it's Hinton in the lead. 181 Neil Cubitt. They're back in about 10th place. Warren Walker tucked out wide to get a good entry to the corner and slots himself into 2nd place.
Hinton, the son of former Australian Grand Prix winner, Eric Hinton, has been racing only 18 months and has already moved his way up to full B grade status, which is quite exceptional even in the current climate of Australian motorcycle racing, where everyone tries to get upgraded as quickly as possible.
Away from Walker, who's been around a while but has been in retirement for about 18 months. He's come back to racing, and you can see there that the young Hinton really capitalising very well, moving away from Walker there on 101. He's being closely hounded by Rob Donnelly, who started well from the 2nd row on 23. Hinton, now Donnelly outside Walker. 41 was Derek Long there, ranging out very wide. And this is the dice for 2nd and 3rd. with now Andrew McLaren on 29 getting in there. McLaren again from the second grid row, 8th grid position. You can see not quite the speed of Walker down the short straight here, and Weavy under brakes. His technique not very good at all, but he's adventurous in the corner. 90 in behind them, John Zammit. McLaren nothing if not adventurous as he tries to rein in Walker. Will be, I suspect, a bit harum-scarum in the S's as Hinton moves away.
Hinton now with a 3-second lead already after only 2 laps.
See how McLaren back there in 3rd place is trying harder, but he's not quite as smooth and his bike's not quite as well set up. He's not as experienced as Warren Walker. There's John Zammit being reined in by Neil Cubitt on 181. He's moving forward after a bit of a slow start. Zammit, quite an experienced competitor, has been around for a fair while now. And 181, Cubitt in 5th place. And further back, or further forward, we see now that Walker's been reined in by McLaren, and coming forward, Cubitt.
Zammit, in fact, started racing in 1973, so racing for almost 10 years.
So too McLaren and Warren Walker sorting out their argument. That's Hinton. This is the gap back to 2nd place McLaren, 3rd place Warren Walker. And then that argument with Cubitt, 181, in having a good dice with Glenn Dobson on 51. Cubitt out on top with Zammit in behind them. So this is 4th, 5th and 6th. And good racing too.
Not that time. The rear end of these bikes really skipping around in that braking area back there. I stood down on the circuit during practice yesterday and was amazed to see just how much front-end bias they're using on these machines, because on the little 250s, the back ends are really lifting off the ground, quite hairy in fact.
This again, Cubitt on 181 from Glenn Dobson on 51. Yamaha corner, the fast left-hander leads it up to the very, very tricky dogleg section where the bikes just get light there and have to change line and have to be dragged in onto the clipping point, then heavy brakes here for BP. And then gun it out of there, get down on the tank, up through the cogs and reaching for maximum speed down the straight. Travelling here up towards 170 plus kilometres an hour. In fact, they'd be going well over that on a race 250. Close to 190.
On the last lap now, so not quite much time left to make up any deficits. Tony Hinton doing it easily in the lead. There's Hinton. He's lapping at about a 22.8, 1 minute 22.8 on the Grand Prix circuit, which is 2 seconds outside the lap record held by Wayne Clark, and in fact held for 2 years now at Oran Park.
Consolidating in 2nd place, Andrew McLaren, 29. 3rd place, Warren Walker, 101. 4th place then in this dice, 181, Neil Cubitt. From 5th, 51, Dobson. And 6th, Zammit, 90.
There's a fall, someone's down.
Run off at the end of the straight as the race leader down to BP for the final time.
And with the final corner going, the checkered flag comes out.
And that's one of the most familiar sights in Australian motorcycle racing, a Hinton hitting the checkered flag first.
And he did so, in fact, 4.4 seconds ahead of Andrew McLaren in second position.
Warren Walker, 101, took third place. That's the way they finished in the JCW motorcycles. 5-lap, 250cc A-grade scratch race.
Ten laps of the Oran Park Grand Prix circuit for the Gowanloch Formula European Series. The final round on pole position. Dave Robbins on the Ducati, and they're racing on bike 15, and Ducati and Robbins make a fantastic start to easily take the first corner as the rest of the field sorts themselves out behind.
Headed by Peter Muir on 159 in second place, and in third place Richard Scott, the New Zealander, on the Ducati 600. Lovely little bike. 104 Greg Reynolds, Ducati 500. Field mostly Ducatis, but Laverda, Triumph, BMW also mixed in there. Big Verbal, somewhat similar to a squadron of Tiger Moths going overhead. Chris Oldfield on the BMW. Drum Tobacco entry number 7, followed by 5. Greg Johnson, similar bike. Johnson's 800 cc's, Oldfield's 1,000. But it's Robbins out in front.
Oldfield riding in no fewer than 4 races on the card today.
There is Bob Brown Motorcycles entry of a Ducati 600. That's a very patchy BP corner that leads them onto the straight. The Oran Park circuit must be getting close to major resurfacing. There's
Certainly
an enormous number of patches now.
Comes Richard Scott on bike number 23. I think he's a real threat in this race. Last time here, him and Dave had a fantastic dice, and I think Richard won one heat and Dave won the other.
This a 10-lapper for the Gowanloch Formula European Series. That series being led outright by Dave Robbins with 27 points from Richard Scott on 15, and who there is having a little bit of trouble with the Ducati 600. And the up to 750 class, Craig Morris on 25 leads Jeff Gooch on 17. That's Ducati and Gooch on a BSA 500.
Mike Richards riding there is actually a 600cc Pantera. It's a factory-based bike for racing, whereas Dave Robbins is also based on a factory bike, but they've done a lot of modifications to it. Norm Fraser's up in Queensland, it's 900cc.
Originally a 750 taken out to nearly 900 cc's, whereas the little 600 cc behind, Richard Scott's quite amazing little bike, the little Pantar, which was released on the market. It's a very expensive 500, nearly $4,000. And then the frame was so good and the road holding, it very quickly came out as a 600. You might remember the Frank Matic team trying to race a couple of them, but running into a fair deal of mechanical problem running them in series production. Trying to run them in one of the Coca-Cola races here. Still in third place, Peter Muir, 159, entered by the race sponsor, Gowanloch Motorcycle Engineering. He's the biggest capacity of the 3 front-running bikes, 905 cc's. Hasn't the fairing that would help either of the front runners slightly on the high-speed stuff.
But indeed trades that off with high handlebars so that he can really muscle the Ducati around the slower corners. Oran Park circuit that really does need a lot of rider muscle rather than smooth technique on the bumpy surface around the back of the Grand Prix track.
Dave Robbins always proponent of the kidney belt. You can see that very wide belt around his waist. Keeps him comfortable.
And the risk of driving the message home, probably never more necessary than right here at Oran Park this weekend.
Some might say when you're on a Ducati, which are fairly firmly sprung.
Talking to Dave last night, and he's saying this bike of his is getting a little bit tired at the moment. However, it's going to be retired after this event, so they didn't want to spend any money rebuilding it. As you can see, it's blowing a little bit of smoke, and things are just basically getting a bit worn out.
Robbins, of course, with you, Dennis Neal, in training last night in a nearby gymnasium, I understand.
Inn of Trees, it was called.
I think if we leave the airspace open long enough there, he could hang himself, actually. Dave, a very smooth rider. Regular performer. He's put in some great performances over many years of motorcycle racing. He likes to rebut the wily veteran tag that he tends to get landed with, pointing out that he's only around 30 years of age, but he has been around a long time, and it's perhaps a compliment to the smoothness with which he rides, the regularity that people see him in that light.
Just timed him on that lap. He did a 20.8, which is a little bit outside the record. Actually, Richard got the record here at the last meeting and holds it at 19.6. Just over a second outside the current lap record for this class.
There's VP corner coming onto the straight. The rider being invited to get to a safer spot before he makes himself comfortable. And the rider was Gareth Mann on a Ducati 500. Race leader in no such trouble. Swooping over the Bridgestone Bridge on his 5th lap, halfway through, nearly, the final round of this series. 2 previous rounds. Second place Scott still, the New Zealander. He's entered by Ducati Australia. Still 3rd place being held by Peter Muir, 159, so it's Ducati's 1st, 2nd, 3rd. In fact, the Bob Brown motorcycle entry at number 40 is 4th, so the BMW is going back slightly in the field. Scott again.
I think Richard Scott has actually now signed a deal for 1983 with the Toshiba Yamaha dealer team. So he's come over from New Zealand and done extremely well for himself in the short time that he's been here.
He has indeed. He's a very good rider. We're looking at the man that he's chasing, Dave Robbins. Gee, it's bumpy off there, and Dennis, it's a very quick section of circuit.
Very quick, and it's blind coming off the bridge, and you don't want to get out wide at all. If you get off line there's a lot of powdery gravel and a lot of chunks of rubber from when the cars use the circuit.
Scott Cannon being lapped there on 37. Ron Young on a Ducati number 163 has come up to 5th place, so that the best placed BMW is Chris Oldfield. He's now in 6th place, number 7. This, the swan song of BMWs in racing in their boxer twin form. The last 6R was their last run as a standard production bike, because there's a new 4-cylinder horizontally opposed BMW due for worldwide release about next September. So the concept that they started and have stuck with every year and every twin-cylinder model since 1923 will be changed some 60 years later.
I think Dave's got things pretty
As
well.
they start to form up. Let's hope we see more action in the racing as they will form up in that order. Rob Phillips with a bike change, of course. Gary Coleman, 52, will be hoping for a much better start. Neville Hiscock probably will be going for the same sort of start as he got previously. Stuart Vaunt will be hoping to do more than half a lap. He reckoned he'd pulled up and was out of that accident, except that Paul Lewis ran up his backside, and that then made the 3-bike accident on the first lap of the last Swan heat.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't let Ron Bolden move up into Paul Lewis's spot on the grid. Obviously he's right up there with him and there's a vacant spot there. It seems silly that they don't let him up start on the front row.
So 10 seconds to go.
Racing. Beautiful start from Dennis Ireland, but then he backs off.
A cheater start, really. He really did jump the gun. But it's John Pace in the lead. Chris Oldfield blasting away and takes the lead. And then it's Phyllis, John Pace, and
David Hiscock on the outside. Oldfield in the lead.
Andrew Johnson's 5th, Avant is 6th.
And there goes Phyllis. Straight round the outside.
He'll take some passing too.
So will Ron Pace, I think. There's Bolden. In behind Mick Cole. So nothing like the start that he got in the first race.
Oh! That's Oldfield.
Chris Oldfield, 01. And a pretty high speed section of circuit there. Oldfield lying face down, as you can see. Where did he?
There he is up the top. Tried to pull in tight. And hit terribly hard.
Bike's got very sideways, under power, under an enormous lot of power.
Very heavy fall, you know, from 60 miles an hour to nothing.
60, I think, would be treating it gently, Dennis. Probably building
Time
up
he's
more
watched a
than
lot
that.
of speed off and gone sideways, he would have probably hit that fence.
Rob Phillips in the lead. Being challenged now by John Pace on the Peter Malloy bike. Takes over the lead. Dave Hiscock in 3rd position. They'll come down to yellow flag shortly. In 4th place, Neville Hiscock.
Well, we're still waiting really for Avant to start asserting himself. But a young man who's been right out of trouble today and whose machine at Sandown, although it didn't finish either race, was running like an absolute rocket. And John Pace might be the man just on his form. He's probably rather keen. He's got a Formula 1 bike, so it's a good, solid, nice rigid frame made by Ken McIntosh in New Zealand. The Peter Malloy tuned engine is delivering a lot of power. In fact, Malloy claims as much as 155 horsepower. Probably exaggerated, but it's certainly got a lot of steam. Gee, under brakes though. Brilliant work by Phyllis. Brilliant. There's Phyllis on a Superbike, mixing it with 2 Formula 1 bikes, just going ridiculously fast.
Dave Hiscock takes over 2nd position and now takes out after John Pace.
Neville Hiscock, as you can see, is not up to this sort of form after his recent fall. He's still holding 4th, Stuart Vaught's 5th, Mick Cole 6th, Andrew Johnson 7th, Bolden is 8th. Steve Parrish is back in 10th place.
Where Dave Hiscock's probably got a slight advantage here is that he's running some brand new tyres, experimental tyres, which are a full inch wider than the tyres that both Johnny Pace and Robbie Phillips are using. So let's say at about lap 5 or 6, when they're starting to go off a bit, Dave Hiscock should have a slight advantage.
It's really looking very good, the way he was able to take a wide line out of that corner and lose very, very little ground. And look at Phyllis glued to them. Look at Phyllis not only glued to them, making ground on them. The boy really is electric. And that's how good Dave Hiscock's bike is, round the outside of Pace through the fastest corner on the circuit. Not bad. In behind still is Neville Hiscock. So they all said it was going to be a Grand Prix bike circuit. You couldn't have got odds on Super or Formula One bikes here at Oran Park. Of course, it's been helped by unpleasant incidents. Let's have a look at John Pace, who just managed to rescue the situation there, coming up onto the bridge.
And there's Hiscock now starting to open the lead on John Pace. And where are the Grand Prix machines? Hiscock now 2 seconds in front of John Pace.
The way they're running at the moment, the man who'll come out of the series with the race lead, very close to it, will be Neville Hiscock. He's on 27 points at the moment in second place, and he's in fourth place in this heat. And he's gaining on the leading trio. He's reining them in.
He'd be obviously feeling the bike out in the early laps of this race to make sure that it is doing everything right after that tremendous crash that it had earlier.
Stu Avant, though, is lying in fifth place. He's on 6 points. That'd take him to 36. Hiscock in fourth place would be on 35.
And Avant is 6.6 seconds behind the leader.
And has got time, of course, to rein them in. The race is far from over. 4 laps completed. They're on their fifth, and it's a 12-lapper. And these bikes are going to suffer in the tyre department later in the race. There, in fact, is Avant looming in the back of the picture there. The final round is at Surfers Paradise next weekend. The final 2 heats of the 3-round series. We'll be with you with ABC Sport from Surfers Paradise. We'll be covering all the action. But here's Rob Phillips, so game, so tough, and really getting some tremendous performance out of a standard frame hot Suzuki 1100 Katana.
Dave Hiscock on that last lap, 1 minute 16.86, which is just under the old lap record. He set the new lap record here earlier on today, but it just shows you that the pace they're riding in is that lap record pace.
And when you consider the strong headwind that's coming up the main straight, that can take quite a deal of power out of even bikes of this caliber.
Another of the tough men is Andrew Johnson, who's taken Mick Cole and is up to 6th place. Cole 7th, Gary Coleman is 8th, Ireland 9th, Parrish 10th. Ron Bolden is retired, Yamaha number 59.
Certainly proves the standard of racing in Australia. These internationals come out here on Grand Prix bikes, and the Australian guys on their
There goes Phyllis.
Watch it, Rob.
Holds it in nice and tight, gets it all under control, and gasses it on down the main straight. Here comes Pace on the big Malloy bike, though. And through again. Rob Phillips has certainly been underpowered on this bike all day. He's proved it against Neville Hiscock, who can open 4 or 5 lengths on him down the main straight. And now again against the Peter Malloy tuned Superbike. The same thing again. Phillips having to ride his heart out through the corners to stay up with the deficit that he makes down the straight.
It is 100 cc's less than the bikes, Neville's and John, so we'll probably explain some of the difference.
In behind too is Neville Hiscock, another big-hearted man. Of the riders running in the first 6 places, there are only 2 who haven't taken a fall this weekend. It's Dave Hiscock in first place and John Pace in third. The other 4 have all been off their bikes and have all hurt themselves this weekend. And there's a whole pile of guys behind them who haven't been off their bikes.
See how smooth Dave is looking. I'm sure his tyres are giving him that advantage at the present time. 2 bikes behind him, both wiggling around a bit. And Dave seems to be looking very smooth.
argument in second and third. Pace, the Formula One, Macintosh, Suzuki. Phyllis, look at him, raining in lengths out of the S's there on the Superbike Suzuki Katana. Similar engines. Dave Hiscock, incidentally, is actually at an engine disadvantage to, for instance, Rob Phillis. He's got a 2-valve engine and 1,000 cc's. Robbie Phillis is a 4-valve GSX type engine. So that gives some credit to Dave Hiscock too.
Yes, but he's got a much more rigid frame, and
oh,
it's
he's helped by frame, indeed.
But
in actual power, he is he's not as well off as the bikes behind. John Pace just starting to grab those fractions. Spell the end of Phyllis being able to hang on to him. In behind Pace, still Phyllis, Neville Hiscock, Andrew Johnson, Stu Avant. Andrew Johnson has taken Stu Avant.
It's interesting to see that Ron Bolden and Stuart Avant, the Grand Prix bikes did crash earlier on, a fair way back in this one. They've obviously got some probably small problems with it. Not to mention they've probably been unearthed through the accident.
Bolden's pulled out, in fact, a few laps ago. Gary Coleman 7th, Ireland 8th, Parrish 9th, John Wood 10th. Pilots that very nicely, Dave Hiscock. Looks very relaxed. Smooth. Obviously got good rubber on it because the bike's not moving around at all.
Announced already that he won't be returning to Great Britain with this machine next year, and that will stay in New Zealand next year. It would be nice to see it race, but at the same stage it's such a beautiful looking sculpture of a machine with its monocoque frame that it would look just as nice on someone's study wall. It really would, above the fireplace.
Owned by Rod Coleman, who was a runner-up in World Championships years ago, and who'll be a guest of honour at the Amaroo Park Historic meeting in January, Historic Cars and Bikes, with John Surtees, former world champion on both cars and bikes. And Coleman won't be bringing that bike. He'll be actually lent a bike by Elmer McCabe. 10 laps done. They're on their 11th. Behind Dave Hiscock, John Pace. Still holding second from Phyllis. There's the gap, as you can see, quite a long one back to Pace in second place. Phyllis hanging on but not able to do anything about it now. The two Formula One bikes asserting themselves.
And as Hiscock comes up to take the blue flag, indicating 1 lap to go in this 4th race of the Swan Insurance Series at Oran Park, the point score which we work out, should the placings remain unchanged between now and the finish, indicates that David Hiscock has taken the lead in the Swan Insurance Series on 42 points, from Stuart Avant on 37, Andrew Johnson on 30, taking Dennis Neal's advice to ride steadily and pick up points during the day. Then in equal 4th position will come Robbie Phillis and Neville Hiscock, both on 24 points, from John Pace on 22. So 20 points separate the top 6 riders in the Swan Insurance Series going into the final round 2 races to be run at Surfers Paradise International Raceway next Sunday. If you can be there from Queensland, please do so. Otherwise, join us on ABC television throughout Australia as we bring you the full Swan Insurance Series at Surfers Paradise. Half a lap to go for David Hiscock.
Run through the order behind him again. John Pace on the Formula One Macintosh Suzuki, prepared by Peter Malloy, 2. Rob Phillis, 32, is 3rd. Neville Hiscock, 4, is lying 4th. Andrew Johnson on 7 is 5th.
There's
as
the
he
checkered
takes
flag.
victory. Stuart Vaunt lying 6th. Gary Coleman, 7th. Dennis Ireland, 8th. Steve Parrish, 9th. And John Wood in 10th place. As they flash across the line, there's the battle to the finishing flag between Neville Hiscock and Andrew Johnson, who all but reined him in, and Gary Coleman too, who all but caught Stuart Vaunt. So the racing really was close, so please join us at Surfers Paradise next weekend when we follow the final round, the final of the Swan Insurance Series.